Our speaker is Mr. Punit Renjen. He's the chairman of the board SAP SE. He'll be virtually present with us, and he'll be in conversation with Mr. Ambarish Dasgupta, senior partner, Intueri Consulting LLP. May I request you, sir, to kindly come onto the dais and take your seat to conduct this very interesting fireside chat, leading with purpose.
Mr. Renjen, thanks very much for taking the pain to be here so late in your evening, and we're really very grateful to you for having you with us at these odd hours of yours. We will have the next 30 minutes with you, but your name and the topic, and particularly the fresh winter morning here in Calcutta with a cup of coffee, people are so charged. They have so many questions for you that we can consume your entire night. So I have to be really strict in controlling the questions from the audience. Just as an introduction to the subject, people who have been here, they may not need the introduction, but since you are not here, in the first 2 minutes, that what is the expectation from this discussion? This seminar, which started yesterday, is very much laden with thoughts on the purpose of the corporates in today's world. Interestingly, a few weeks back, there was another seminar being done here, which is navigating the business here, the challenges to the board, the intersection of morality and materiality. And so therefore, that's the question which is very much going around in this part of the country based on that. And now today we are continuing in this also, that is the shareholder primacy, the profit, the growth is now slightly taking a backseat with the stakeholder capitalism, the new things that we are thinking of, hearing from the impact economies, the Gen Z millenniums, this purpose, ethos, the new style of the defining a corporate's goal, how that is to be handled, seriously boards are taking this. In fact, there are quotes like Friedrich Nietzsche who mentioned, "He who has a why to live for can bear all how." So this why is now becoming so quite important here. And questions that are coming up also, and that is where we will be looking forward to an answer from you, at least from the CEOs, CIOs here in this part, is that, is the definition of the purpose quite embedded in just doing some CSR, in environment, in sustainability, in handling employees better, or it goes beyond that? It is something more that we need to do to fulfill the ambition of a purpose, which presently the impact economy investors or the Gen Zs and the new shareholders are asking for. With this, let me go and start asking you some of the questions which have in our mind. But Mr. Renjen, please feel free to go beyond our questions also if you have more thoughts on this subject. But to just set the ball rolling, my first question to you today is that what are the challenges that today's global boards, I mean, you have been in the top boards, you have been in the Deloitte board, in the SAP board, and many such global boards. Now, what are the challenges that the boards are facing now today? I mean, in this VUCA world, with a new definition of ethics, purpose, morality coming in, with so much of demands from these new generation people, investors, advancement of technology and the ethical adoption, what types of challenges are the boards now facing today and they are discussing? Or are they thinking that these concepts are faddish, it will come, it will go, we will stick primarily to the regular handling of the board matters as we have been doing in the past?
First, it's great to be with you. I wish I could be with you in person. Is my voice coming across okay now?
Yes, it is coming.
So I wish I could be with you. Kolkata is one of my favorite cities. But this, I think, will have to do. I will touch on your introduction around purpose. But let me answer your question first. Boards and corporates are increasingly faced with some of the geopolitical challenges that we have. The war in Ukraine has certainly had a tremendous impact on the global economy. It has been a horrendous impact on the people in Ukraine. And certainly the war in Israel and in the Middle East is having a profound impact on business. So from a business perspective, that is certainly top of mind. Some of the geopolitical tensions between the United States and China play into that. So geopolitics and the impact that it has on conducting business is one key area. The second key area, which is an opportunity, is AI and what is happening with digitization. What we are experiencing today with digitization is profound. It is going to change the way that we work, that change the way that we live. I've been in business for over 36 years. I've experienced re-engineering, and you seem to be about the same age as me. You may remember re-engineering, but I experienced re-engineering, Y2K, the internet, .com, and frankly, what we are experiencing today with digitization is a more profound and a longer-term secular trend that companies need to address. That is a second key trend that boards and companies are facing. And then the third one, and I could go on, but the third one is the expectations that we have from our employee set. Gen Zs and millennials think of the world differently than you and I did. And so that is certainly weighing on the minds of boards as well as corporates. One other thing that I would suggest to you, the pandemic that we went through in 2020 and 21, again, fundamentally changed the way that we conduct business, and it had a profound impact. Inflation is one such example, the supply chain disruption, which was an opportunity, a great opportunity for countries like India, and the decoupling, or the decoupling is the wrong word, but trying to get other places where manufacturing can be sourced away from China is a result of the pandemic. So geopolitics, digitization and AI, the expectations that Gen Zs and millennials have, and finally, the post-pandemic world.
Thank you. That was really pretty succinct, the 4 expectations which you are seeing from the board now across the world. In fact, yes, I can see just behind you the photo of another upcoming Gen Z. He must be your grandson or...
No, he's my son.
You just, oh, yeah, okay. So he's just, no, on your left-hand side.
This fellow? That's my son when he was
when he was young. Okay. So he may be another Gen Z now. So we're very much surrounded with their expectations and aspirations of this Gen Z even in our home. And therefore, many of our people who are sitting in the leading boards, their thoughts are very much influenced also by the Gen Z that they have at their home, be it their children or their grandchildren.
Yes.
My next question to you will be that why this part?
I'd like to go back to what you started with this whole notion of purpose. And you laid it out actually pretty interestingly, where is this different? Is purpose all about social impact? And I would say I reject that. The focus on generating a shareholder return hasn't changed. But I think what more evolved businesses have come to realize is that when you have a purpose-driven organization that focuses on the entire set of stakeholders, your chances of success are much greater. Let me give you an example. I retired recently from Deloitte, where I was the CEO of Deloitte. Deloitte had $65 billion in revenue, 400,000 employees, about 100,000 of them in India. 85% of these 400,000 employees in 100 countries are Gen Zs and millennials. And we used to survey them incessantly. Invariably, the answer that I got back from these Gen Zs and millennials was, what does Deloitte do beyond its core profit motive? What is Deloitte doing to address the climate issue? Now think about this for a minute. If, and as you said, motivating Gen Zs and millennials, 85% of the 400,000 are Gen Zs and millennials at Deloitte. If I want to motivate them, I must have a credible response to the issue around climate, around what we do for the communities that we live and work in. And because we had a credible response, Deloitte, in my time, became the #1 firm in revenue and profitability. Now, can I draw a causal link between what we were doing with purpose and the results, the bottom line results? Probably not, but I can draw a strong correlation. That is why purpose is not just something good to do, it is the right business thing to do. I'll give you one more anecdote. Every year, Deloitte and SAP hire, tens of thousands of people. I speak at a number of top business schools. When I go to business schools, that's the question I'm asked. What does your organization do for the betterment of society? If I want to hire the best, I must have a credible response. That is why purpose is far, far beyond just doing good. It is good business.
Right. We get your point, and that's where, yes, there is this divergence coming in the mind of the people in the boards also, like the famous economist, corporate practitioner, Thomas Friedman. He had the view that the companies will only have one objective and one purpose, that is to enhance the shareholders' profit. The shareholder with their dividend can do whatever community building, whatever CSR they would like to do. That's not the purpose of a company. I think we have moved away from that. It's now no more. I think any corporate will actually dare to really say, or even not a question of dare, they will rather want to say it in that language, that our only purpose is to generate more money for the shareholders, and whatever they now want to do, they can do that. I'm really happy to have that. Same views from you. Now, question to you therefore is, when the boards that you sit in are now focused on why we exist, the purpose, I mean, whatever we are doing right now, how aligned that is to my long-term purpose? What am I going to do for the posterity? Is there a measurability to it? Are they fixing KPIs? Are they really fixing performance measures? Are they allowing systems to come so that the message percolates down? Because not for SAP or not for Deloitte, but there are many organizations who are being alleged to have a good purposeful statement, but that is only a PR positioning. That's only for their branding. Otherwise, they are really continuing to do whatever they have been doing in the past. So how such leading boards will actually give a measurability governance to the why part of it, the purpose of their existence?
Well, that is increasingly happening. I'm in London speaking with investors next week, and I'm going to be asked about sustainability at SAP. The long-term goals or the goals of the executive is certainly around generating appropriate shareholder return, extraordinary shareholder return. But it is also about issues around climate, around sustainability, around employee engagement, around customer engagement. So it is a full stakeholder view. And frankly, they're all interrelated. Happy customers buy more products and services. That leads to greater revenue and greater profitability. Happy, engaged employees provide you the competitive edge, whether it is in innovation, whether it is in competing with your competitive set. They're all interrelated and linked. The example that I gave you around the Deloitte example, the 400,000 employees and the questions that they're asking, that is important to them. And if we have a credible response, we engage them. You have a more engaged and happy employee, and therefore a more innovative employee, a better product. So they're all interrelated. And the KPIs are certainly there. It's a basket of KPIs.
Perfect. And you are very correct. I mean, a strong purpose communicated from the leading persons, the chairpersons like you, and how that will be also looked into, watched, observed, binds the entire family, employees, the buyers, the consumers, the suppliers, the entire ecosystem around the corporates also together. The purpose can be a strong binding glue. It could be much more binding glue than a product also. So it's a strong communication of a purpose from a company can really bind the whole ecosystem around us. Now,
Suresh, you said another very interesting. Am I pronouncing your name right?
my name is Ambarish, but go ahead. I mean, I
Ambarish.
can understand that you are
Ambarish,
referring to me in whatever way you say.
Yes, but I think you made an interesting point. You said it in passing, but I want to underscore it. And that is, you said, why do we exist? As human beings, you want to be associated, and you can check me on this, you want to be associated with an organization that is doing more than just generating a bottom line results, that is actually creating an impact. Isn't that the case? I mean, you want to be associated with an organization where you can answer the question, if I was wiped off the face of the earth, people would say XYZ Corporation did the following. That's another reason why a compelling purpose that is unique to the organization, that defines why the organization exists, is important. It is important because it is the North Star that transcends leaders, it informs the strategy, and it motivates the employees.
Absolutely, and so right you are. I mean, and it is not just a motivating factor for the employees only, it's a motivating factor even for the customers, even for the suppliers, if that message could be conveyed. And also it could be conveyed that we are serious about the purpose. The purpose is not just a PR positioning or just a branding statement for us. That binds the whole family and makes it a very happy family, that ecosystem. Now, coming to your organization, SAP, like your predecessor, I have the Christian Klein, I was going through him, he mentioned the purpose of the SAP, like the greenness, the sustainability. Therefore, the software that you produce will also enhance the customers' reporting of that sustainability. So mainly focused on the greenness, the sustainability. Now, has that stayed like that, or has the purpose has changed, evolved with you coming in, others coming in? So how is SAP maintaining their purpose, and what is their purpose?
Christian Klein is the CEO. He's an excellent CEO. I will be succeeding Hasso Plattner, who's a legendary icon, who's the founder of SAP and has been at SAP for 50 years. I think the chairman for 25 years. I may be wrong, not precise, but 23 to 25 years. So I'll be succeeding him at the next annual general meeting. I'm the deputy chairman today. A purpose, as I said, transcends leaders. A purpose doesn't change. SAP's purpose is around the notion of the best run. The best run companies run on SAP. And that purpose, whether it is around the software that we produce, the customer interaction that we have, the employee interaction, or around sustainability and how we are helping in the communities that we live and work in, will not change. One of the wonders of SAP and what Hasso and the founders have done is that they have built a fabulous sustaining organization that has sustained for 50 years, and I'm confident will sustain into the future.
Thank you. Mr. Renjen, you are the deputy chairman. Soon you will be replacing Mr. Hasso Plattner, and you will become the chairperson, and the board, the MD, the Christian, all will be reporting to you and working with you. I mean, whoever your board and your executive management will be. SAP is primarily being looked at as a strong technology company, a digital company, and they are ushering in a new era for a corporate's processing, a corporate's AI, digital, and everything. Question that is also coming up is the ethical adoption of technology, the future of the digital thing and their ethical adoption of that. Any technology that you will be producing that could be used for an ethical purpose, it could be used for many other purposes also. What is your view on that? And when you come into the chairmanship, which you are very much like as a deputy chairman also controlling the entire SAP, the worldwide, what is your view in terms of the digital adoption? Like if your customers are using your product for a reason which you do not like, how would you handle that? If a country is using your product for reasons which you do not like, how would you handle that? What's your view on the ethical adoption of digital technology?
First, let's take a step back here. I think you asked me this question at the top of this fireside chat, and I talked about how digitization is and the trend, the secular trend that we are experiencing is a 15, 20-year secular trend that is going to fundamentally change the way that we work and live. And there are a number of things. There's certainly the digitization. India has done a phenomenal job at a country level in terms of rapidly digitizing through the Aadhaar card, etc. There's certainly digitization, but there's also AI and machine learning. The 5G revolution, which now India is experiencing, is fundamentally changing the way that information is shared, augmented reality, edge computing, blockchain and decentralized technology, cybersecurity innovations, and then sustainability and using technology as an enabler to address some of these vexing climate issues that we face. So the point I'm trying to make here is that whilst we are experiencing some very difficult times with the geopolitical issues, the post-pandemic world, and getting through the supply chain issues and inflation, etc., this secular trend I am very optimistic about. SAP is right in the middle of it. Because this is our core capability, whether it's AI or producing software for sustainability, etc. Now to your question about ethics. Ethics and integrity is central to an organization, because if you don't operate your business with ethics and integrity in terms of building the technology and running the business on a day-to-day basis, you are potentially compromising your most valuable asset, which is your brand. And recovering from an ethical issue it becomes very, very difficult. It becomes a very difficult. So SAP at its core in our values has ethics and integrity, and that is absolutely critical. It should be non-negotiable. And it should be transcending countries. So you cannot have a different set of ethics and integrity in country X versus country Y. There has to be that consistent level across the board. So that is non-negotiable for us at SAP. It was non-negotiable for us at Deloitte. That doesn't mean that there aren't mistakes made, but when you do make those mistakes, you address them, and you address them rapidly. In terms of the ethical use of technology, and AI is a very good example. Governments need to, and we have to, as the leading software company in the world, the most valuable company on the DAX, for instance, we have to engage with public policy makers around AI regulation. And I think there needs to be agreement across the board so that AI is used for good and it isn't used for nefarious purposes. So we have an obligation to engage with public policy makers, with government, so that we can come up with consistent global expectations and regulations. In the way that we build our software, we build ethics and integrity into it. and that is also central. But I think it'll be important for us to make sure that it is consistent with the regulations that hopefully will come sooner rather than later. But all of us have to step in.
Thank you. Thank you. From SAP or from Deloitte, let us come a little bit to Mr. Punit Renjen, his movement. You have been in this side of the world also, in the oriental part, and you have now moved to the western. So you mentioned, that you brought the word value, and you did mention that the value should not change. It should be same, constant across the country. But even then, I'm tempted to ask you this question that a part of your life, when in the formative stages of your life, you have spent in the Oriental culture, in the Oriental definition of the values and the purpose, and the bigger part of your professional life, also your academic life, you spent hugely in the Western part. Is there a difference in the definition of the values and purposes between the Oriental and the Occidental, or the Western thoughts and the Western corporates?
Well, we're all human beings, and everybody is trying to do the right thing. I firmly believe that you should never forget where you came from. My mother lives in Rohtak. हम तो हरियाणवी हैं, and proudly Haryanvi हैं. And you never leave. I left when I was relatively young, but I'm proud to be from Rohtak, Haryana. My mother lives in the same house that I grew up in, and I go back many times a year. And I think that has frankly informed my personality. It has certainly informed the way that I work and live. The Indian philosophy, the Indian value system is actually a pretty remarkable value system. I mean, if you think about our parampara and our heritage, we talk about sustainability and we talk about living in harmony with nature. That is a key part of being Indian, and it's part of our growing up. The fact that we are a true melting pot. I mean, for eons we've had people that have come to India and have made India a home, whether it is the Muslims that came, the Mughals, but we are a true melting pot, and that gives you a perspective. And the United States is as well a true melting pot. And I think I was frankly very lucky that I got my scholarship to come to the United States, that the scholarship grantors picked the United States for me to come to. The United States is a wonderful, wonderful country, a true melting pot, and only in the United States can a brown kid from Rohtak, Haryana grow up and become the CEO of a white shoe, 175-year-old firm.
Thank you, thank you. That's really a very nice journey. You, throughout, and even now, I mean, though it is a product company, but still SAP is a hugely service company also. And prior to SAP, you have been throughout in a service sector where you have been serving people. You have been serving clients, you have been serving your employees as a chairman, and you have been serving people. So your entire career has been by serving people, either coming in the form of a client, corporates or governments or academic institutions or citizens. In some form or the other, you have been serving them. So while serving, you might have come across varying purposes, varying values in the various kinds of companies and firms that you have worked for. And any time did you see that there was a reason or there was a demand, which I'm sure you have not definitely, the companies like yours have definitely not succumbed to, but there was a trading off to be done between the purpose and the purpose of the company that you were representing and the purpose of the client? Any kind of conflict that arose in your mind, any dilemma that arose, any anecdotes, anything that, how did you resolve that conflict? How did you resolve that conflict of the purposes?
Well, I think what your question implies values, and whether I experienced any value conflicts where my value system or the value system of the company that I was representing was in conflict with a client or a customer that I was serving. And yes, when you have a 36-year professional career like I've had, you absolutely experience that. But you have to stick to your values and stick to a level of integrity. Because without that value system and without integrity, you have nothing. And once that is compromised, it impacts the most valuable thing that you have, which is your personal brand and the brand of your company. And, I would say this when I would go speak, and I've been to 70 some countries, different Deloitte offices, and when I would speak to people, I would always say, values, you've got to do the right thing, and you've got to do the right thing, particularly when you believe people are not looking. Because if you don't, the consequences can be profound, negatively profound.
So from the last 25 minutes of discussion, I really the audience here, me as well, can come reasonably to a conclusion that even in the global mega companies in their board, the purpose and the values are now really something which is extremely important and being seriously looked into and considered. Therefore, this is definitely an agenda on the board, as you were mentioning. And therefore, it must be also an agenda on the board that how the training, appropriate training, the building up of an organization's culture around the purpose, the values, the ethics that they're defining. Though it's very difficult to define an ethics and integrity because everybody will be having their own definition of ethics and integrity, but at least at an organizational level, there has to be a definition. And that needs to be trained, that needs to be percolated down. So are the corporates now, the big organizations now, taking steps to make people trained in that as well, so that they are the flag bearer of such purpose message of the board?
Absolutely. I think it has to be part of the way that work is done in an organization and the way that we evaluate and compensate individuals. First, you have to define it. You have to define purpose. You have to define the set of values. And it can't be generic. It has to be very specific to the organization, and it has to be what you truly value. Then it has to be embedded into the organization, and it has to be measured. People have to be evaluated. People have to be trained on it. And that is something that I would say leading organizations increasingly do. I mentioned when you asked me about KPIs, the KPIs for our CEO and for the entire executive team include certainly the bottom line results that we expect, the top line results that we expect, but also the employee engagement, and we survey our employees, the customer engagement, the impact that we are having around sustainability and the communities that we live and work in. That is all part of their evaluation process, and it is also part of their compensation.
The last question from my side, and then maybe we will pick up some questions from the audience also. But I am mindful of your time, Mr. Renjen. So what time is it now there in your part?
It is very late, and I think we're at time. I'm at 32 minutes, but they said 30 minutes. But I think I'll take a few more questions.
Okay,
yes.
I'll let you go very soon. I do not want to deprive you of your sleep. A question from you, because the audience that I see here, and there are 600 people on the link as well, many of them will be of my age, but many here would be half of the age that I mean, very young. And since you mentioned about training, so these younger people, young talents are all possibly aspiring to move into organizations like you have earlier served or serving now. What would be your advice to these young people, not in terms of skills or that they need to develop? I'm saying more in terms of the attributes, the characteristics, the behavioral part, which reflect the message that you so far gave, be it in India or be it an American young or be it an Indian youth. What would be your message to them as far as their preparation, the developments of their characteristics, attitude goes?
Well, I would start by saying pick something that you either love or you can train yourself to love. Because if you do something that is that you feel an affinity to, you will become good at it. That is the first point. When I was growing up in Rohtak, Haryana, I wanted to be a cricket player. And my hero was a cricketer named Gundappa Vishwanath. I don't know if you know Vishwanath, but Vishwanath was my hero. And but I realized very quickly that I didn't have the skill or the aptitude to be a very good cricket player. And I, by chance, by happenstance, ended up at Deloitte 36 years ago. And over time, I taught myself to love what I was doing. And I think that was one of the ingredients for whatever success I've been able to achieve. The second thing is, and I'm asked this question, I speak at these types of forums a lot, particularly with young people. I'm often asked, particularly in India, what is the shortcut to get to a position like yours? It only took me 25 years to become an overnight success. It took me 25 years of hard work. There is no other recipe for success. Some people may get lucky at a younger age, but it takes time to become really good at something that you do. So I would say, try and find something that you love and then work at it and become very good at it, and success will follow.
Thank you. Your mention of Gundappa Vishwanath actually has really touched the chord here, because last year in this event, we had Gundappa Vishwanath and Sunil Gavaskar having a chat with us in this event itself. And I have been personally a very, very strong fan of Vishwanath. And I told Vishwanath, in fact, that if Vishwanath was not playing cricket or Vishwanath was not born, then my board exams in class 10 and class 12 would have been much better. And I would have been at a different level now if Vishwanath was not born. And since you love Vishwanath, I'm sure Calcutta and Calcutta's Eden Garden will also be etched in your mind, because one of the best innings that Vishwanath played, if you remember, that 137 that is scored in Eden Garden. So that's one of the... Thank you very much for bringing Vishwanath's name here. And yes, I'm a very strong fan of Vishwanath. May I now take a few questions from the audience? If your voice doesn't reach up to Mr. Renjen, then I will relay the question to him. Yes, please. Yes, please. Give me a microphone, please. You are from Deloitte. You are.
Yeah. Hi, Punit. I don't know whether you are able to see me. Himanshu this side from Deloitte.
Yes, I see you. How are you, Himanshu?
I'm good, Punit. It's close to a year now. I'm seeing you in a different organization, but just wanted to quickly hear from you on what you're doing in your individual capacity on some of the projects which you left last year, be it on stubble burning or something you wanted to pick up in the southern part of India.
Oh, Himanshu. पहली बात सबको मेरी नमस्ते देना Deloitte पे.
Sure.
But I'm glad you asked me this question. One of the things that Deloitte has been doing and doing fabulous work is around stubble burning, as Himanshu mentioned. So if you go to New Delhi, and I'm saying something that you already know, the air quality is horrendous. It is horrendous in northern India. And part of it is just geography, but 25 to 30% of the issue is because the farmers burn the paddy stubble. And they have done this for eons. And over the last 3 years, Deloitte has put in millions of dollars, and now we've been able to mitigate stubble burning, or start to mitigate stubble burning in the state of Haryana. In the state of Haryana, 19 million tons of carbon dioxide is put into the atmosphere. We have mitigated fires 65% this year. We have now addressed 91% of the fires in Haryana. And this is a fabulous example of using technology, where we built an app, or Deloitte has built an app. I keep saying we, I'm no longer with Deloitte, but Deloitte has built an app. It's like an Uber app that you have, and farmers can schedule equipment, the threshers and the balers. That app links end users. We've also got other corporates involved. And we've got the government working with us, fabulous outreach, working with ASHA workers and others, and panchayats. So it's been Himanshu, I'm glad you asked me this question, but this was something that is near and dear to my heart, and something that I've got SAP involved in now. My hope is that next year We will get Punjab on board. Punjab is where most of the fires are, and we'll get UP on board, and we will lick this problem. 25 to 30% of the air quality issues that you face in northern India are because of stubble burning. And so this is something that, we started off with talking about purpose, and Himanshu will be my witness. For the 100,000 employees, when we tell them this story in terms of what Deloitte is doing, it is a fabulous motivator. They love it.
Thank you. Any other question? Dr. Trio? Maybe after Dr. Trio, one more, and then we will really allow Mr. Renjen to go. Dr. Trio, yes.
Yep. Hello, Mr. Renjen. So actually, just to follow up on the stubble question, the main issue is that it's a much it provides much more higher economical value to farmers to, go with the stubble burning. It's a much higher economic value because they save a lot of costs, that kind of disposal. And a lot of it has happened is because the crop cycle over there has changed because of certain genetically modified crops coming into the picture. So how is it that you're looking to address this particular problem of giving an economic incentive to not undergo this process?
Actually, I have to apologize. You're wrong. It isn't in their economic interest. They are leaving $300 million on the table because the stubble can be sold to end users, to gaushalas, to ethanol plants, and the farmer actually earns an income out of that. But you're absolutely right that there is a 6-week window between the time that they harvest the paddy crop and the time that they sow the winter crop. And that 6-week window, the easiest answer is a 1-cent match. And to be able to get the equipment, which costs a lot, to be able to schedule it, to educate them that you are leaving money on the table, we're also leveraging incentives that already exist. The Prime Minister's fund, that money can be used to compensate the farmers. So your question is right in the sense that the incentives have to be explained to the farmer. They're better off. Here's the other thing. 2 other things that I want to tell you. One, the quality of the soil, their soil is degraded because they burn the paddy crop. That is point 1. Second, 200,000 lives, equivalent lives, are lost every year, including the farmer's family, because of poor air quality. If you live in northern India, you are shortening your lifespan because of stubble burning. So when you put all of that together, there are ample economic incentives to do this and do this right.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You can tell I have a lot of passion about this. I've thought a lot, long and hard about this.
Yeah, I think I was actually going to say that you are extremely passionate about this subject and quite wise also. Thank you very much. I think I don't think I'm in a position to take any more questions because I have been, but we could have actually continued for long. But Mr. Renjen, my last thing is that beyond my questions, if there is anything that you would like to address which the questions didn't bring out, anything else that you would like to mention?
You are living in a great time in India. If the situation that exists in India existed 40 years ago, when I left India, I don't think I would have left India. Be proud. This is India's time. It is India's century. And I'm certainly very proud to be of Indian heritage. And I wish I was not 62 years old, I was 22 years old, and I could come and relive my life in India. The opportunities in India are tremendous. Thank you for having me, and it was my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm also tempted to lastly add that behind you we can see an idol of Nataraj.
Yes.
And a poet from this part of the country, Rabindranath Tagore. He wrote a beautiful song. Maybe the translation of that song, I will send it to you on Nataraj, which is in Bengali people will be knowing, Proloy Nachon Nachle Jokhon. So that song actually echoed the thought of the destruction of the universe by this gentleman, Nataraj, if there is anything unethical or something which is not having a value or a purpose. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Renjen. It was really, really wonderful to have you, hear you, and your words of, and also to sense your passion on this subject. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
Thank you very much, Mr. Punit Renjen and Mr. Ambarish Dasgupta. May I request Mr. Somnath Guha, Vice President, Production and Engineering, to kindly come forward and present a memento to Mr. Ambarish Dasgupta and to also Mr. Punit Renjen. He will be accepting the memento on behalf of Mr. Punit Renjen. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambarish Dasgupta, for this very interesting session. You have set the tone for the entire day, leading with purpose. Thank you very much.